I want to show you my top 10 rideshare numbers from 2024. And then, of course, at the end of the video, I've got a surprise for you, a surprise 11th number. Let's go through it. For 2024, I earned $58,022. About 72% of that $58,000 came from the fare. The other 28% was made up of things like tips and promotions and other earnings. In previous years, I've earned somewhere between, about 13 to 35,000. So 2024 was my biggest earnings yet. To earn 58,000, I had to take 3,532 trips, and I actually had to drive 57,000 miles. The trips, that's pretty normal, but the miles, that was a lot. Probably too much, actually way too much, actually. Now I could say, hey, I live in a remote area and I have to drive to get to my rideshare area. But the reality is I've changed from being a short trip driver to taking a lot of long trips, which has added a lot of deadhead miles, and that's not good. For my fuel, maintenance, and depreciation, and even taxes, I had about a 30% cost or 70% profit margin, which means I earned just a little bit over $40,000 in profit in 2024. And I was online for 1,634 hours with the utilization rate, meaning times I was either heading to pick somebody up or somebody was in my car, of 79%. Which leads me to the most important numbers. How much money did I make for every hour that I worked after all my expenses? And it was $24.89 per hour. Sometimes people like to look at things like their active hour, and that was right around $44 for me as an active hour. But again, I think the most important number for most drivers is the time they spend working. How much do they make after all their expenses? And for me, it was $24.89. Now for the number that I'm most proud of, 40%, which is 40% of all of my trips, I earned a tip. And if you're a rideshare driver, that's really hard to do, especially at 3,000 some odd trips. In fact, I earned $8,400 some odd dollars in tips last year. And why am I most proud of that? Because that means I'm really doing a good job. The ratings, they're up there or whatever, and it's really neat if you can earn a lot of money in the fares. But the tips, that means the passengers appreciated my work. In fact, just a few weeks ago, out of the blue, I got my biggest tip ever, $120. In the app too. One time back during COVID, I got a $100 cash tip, but $120 just a few weeks ago, super grateful for that. The smallest tip this year, I got an 8-cent tip, I got a 3-cent tip, and I got a 1-cent tip. I think these penny tips are really a function of the app. People are trying to give me $1 and they're just hitting 1 and not realizing there's a decimal. So Uber, fix that. Nobody wants to tip in pennies unless they're mean and vindictive, and we don't want to support that. So just make it whole dollars. My longest trip of the year was from Syracuse to the Buffalo airport, 141 miles. And while I did get a $50 tip on that trip, it's probably not the smartest thing because I had to drive back empty. My shortest trip of the year was literally just right around the block. It was 0.2 miles. That was a very profitable trip too. And just so you know, my longest trip I've ever taken was from Syracuse University to just outside of Philadelphia. It was right around a 4.5-hour trip, 253 miles. So there's that. So profit per trip, definitely the longer trips I make more money, but they're not as profitable because I have deadhead miles and whatever. But the short trips, they can be extremely profitable. And here was my most profitable trip of last year. I earned $370 an hour taking somebody basically across the street. I earned just a little bit over 7,000 some odd dollars in promotions last year. Promotions have been getting less and less. And of that 7,000, about 2/3 of that came from what's called the EV promotion. And I got that in 2 types of payments. One was first it was $1 per trip, and then it was like $200 a month But I also got a $2,000 one-time promotion to purchase a Tesla. That's one of the reasons why I own the Tesla too. So that's my 10 probably most interesting numbers of 2024. But I've got one more number that I just have to share with you that I think is really funny. Actually, it's two numbers. The first number is $100.43. That was a fare adjustment. The trip went like this. I was taking somebody to the airport, and about halfway to the airport on about an hour-long drive, they said they forgot their passport. And I was like, well, we should turn around and go get it. So they added a stop back at their other location where we were coming from. And I turned around and started driving that way. In about 5 minutes, as we had turned around, the passenger came up with a different solution than using their passport. Doesn't really matter. So we turned back around and went to the airport. And I contacted Uber, said, hey, this is not fair. The trip was like 10 minutes longer. And the Uber customer service person was like, you're right. You should get some sort of fare adjustment. And they gave me $100 for that 10 minutes. Woohoo! Rarely do we get wins from Uber. I'll take that. The other one is $1,320 and some change. I don't know exactly how much, but that was paid sick leave, which is a total scam because I've paid well over $2,000 into the New York State benefit program. But here in New York State, drivers can get paid sick leave. And every month or so after you've accumulated 30 some odd hours, or I don't know the system, it doesn't really matter. I just say, can I get my money back? And they pay me back. But somebody's holding most of that money and they're making a lot of money, and it's a scam. So you do not want, this is my final conclusion for the video, you do not want paid sick leave, at least not run by the government of New York State. For 2025, I hope you drive your way. Thank you for taking a look at my numbers from 2024. If you want more numbers, I recommend you join Thrive, whether it's on the website or here on YouTube. Subscribers, I try to share more data and more kind of detailed help type of things. Hey, I'd love for you to join the Facebook group, and I'm cheering for you. Here's to 2025. Bye.